So it is Wednesday, November 16th, 2022, and as of yet, no leaked pictures of the Dakar from the auto show. So I'm just gonna have to go with what I have, which is basically making the pin off the test mules. I'm gonna add in a couple roof rails, and hopefully in a few hours I'll get something. But so we're gonna just continue on with what we had. So this is just like the last one that I made, where it's ready to make the thin shell to cast. So I'm just gonna take my acrylic and start layering it in very thin. Whoops. Since I grabbed a bigger chunk there, make it the roof. Start spreading that around. Get my A-pillars. Someone asked me how I get my A-pillars so thin when I build this up. I hope maybe you saw that when I was making the buck, how the windows are carved into the sculpture really deep, so that when I make a copy of it in silicone, it leaves a actual convexity in here. So looking at it from inside out, kind of like a negative of what the car is going to be, it the windows protrude out towards me, and then the A-pillars go away from me. Let me see if I can get the original again. I'll show you. See how I carve them in real deep, so that when I do that silicone, now the windows come towards me and the A-pillars go away from me, if that makes sense. So that's how I can, when I'm doing this, get the A-pillars to be super thin, because there's a border around it where the windows are at a different level. And I discovered that just kind of by accident, trial and error, making several of these and trying different ways to make them. So I'll just go around, do the whole thing like this, so I can get my thin shell made up. I'll just stop it here and come back when it's all filled in. All right, let's see how this turned out. Well, pardon the hum in the background. It's cold in the garage and I have a heater on. That's that fan blowing. Okay. So there's our casting pattern. You can see the flares. Looks good, everything looks complete. All right. It's pretty dang good. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up all the flashing and go on to the next step. All right, so I'm gonna try to show you how I do the removal of the flashing, and hopefully the sound of this machine isn't too annoying. What I'll do is, this is like a silicone wheel, very fine. I go along and first smooth out the bottom of the car. Up front. I have to be really careful with how I hold this acrylic, because it's so thin, it's like 1/2 millimeter thick. So if I hold it too tight, it'll break it. but I gotta hold it tight enough so that when this wheel hits it, it doesn't fly out of my hands. Looks pretty straight. Now that I have the edges cleaned up, go ahead and change to a I'm going to change to this round burr. And go on the inside. The overall flashing. So easy for it to just grip the plastic and just run over the top of it. And that means, well, sometimes I could add some wax to it, just cover up the mistake. Sometimes gotta redo it, start over. And I'll start cleaning up from the inside the flashing of the acrylic. Now I'm going to get a blade and then come through and clear out the rest of the windows with a blade. I'm going to have to pause this. I'm going to go get my blade. This is a surgical blade, like the blade that they'd use to cut somebody open to take a spleen out or something. And we use that because this is super hard stainless steel. And so it lasts a long time when I'm using it in the laboratory. So I'll go out and just trim that flashing out of the windows very gently. It can cut the acrylic, but it can also break it. So I start from the inside first so I could thin that flashing out. Because if I try to do this with like any kind of thickness to it, I could just break it because I'll have to put too much force on it to get the flashing out, and either my fingers will break it from trying to hold it, or the blade will break the plastic. I hope this is interesting. I mean, I like watching this stuff on YouTube, but when you're actually doing it yourself and you've done it so many times for so long, you think, I don't know how interesting it is. to see the process rather than just the finished product. Let me know in the comments. Do you like this? Like, I was also thinking about doing this live. Like, instead of editing together all these steps, just whenever I start working on a piece, just to turn on the camera and go live. If people want to watch, they can watch, and then I can just post it. What do you think? Okay, so now I see some areas that I have to thin out. They're a little thick. You can see that when it looks too oval, I need to clear out some material here, clear out some material up here, so I can get that classic Porsche fly line in the window area, just so that it makes it easier to identify what kind of car it is. I'm going to square out the rear window here. Everything else looks pretty good though.